Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock here, practicing necromancer. And today I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about how to determine if a spirit or demonic entity or any kind of entity in general is trying to speak to you. And this is actually something that has come up several times from people inquiring about spiritual contact. More so, more recently, I was actually contacted by Beelzebub, Lord of Flies, and it was interesting because it kind of goes into this video, which is kind of ironic, really, because when you think about it, there are many different ways that they can communicate with you. Hey, Connor. And so there's a lot of different ways that they can talk to you. They can come through the incense smoke. They can come through any number of divination tools, such as the black scrying mirror, the pyromancy, the candle flames. Um, they can come to you through visions. They can even, if they wish, they can even come through and whisper into your ear. So, and this is even going down into oneomancy, which is dreams. Okay. But one of the more common things that I find interesting is how they can approach you through animals, such as insects, serpents, dogs, cats. This is a method that certain entities like Mephistopheles would do. He would take the perspective of something young and beautiful, so to speak, like a child, much like Lucifer would do. But if we're talking animals or insects, then you want to go with Pazuzu, Lord of the Grasshoppers, okay? The Lord of the Harvest, so to speak. And then you have Beelzebub, who appears to you in the form of a fly, or in my case, a bunch of freaking fruit flies that, let's just say, it's a little annoying, but let's just go with it and kind of, I'll fill you in on that one in just a minute. But and then you have things like certain entities like Asmodeus that comes into your world and appears with three different types of heads. You know, so it's kind of interesting to see how they can use animals or certain divination tools and even speak to you personally. But a lot of times when they do this, it's kind of hard to figure out, is it a spirit talking to me or is it something else? Okay. So, one of the things that I recommend doing is going down through the list. Okay. For an example, as I said, Beelzebub reached out to me. And it took me a while to realize that he was actually communing with me because it's been a while. I'm talking at least 3 to 4 years since the last time I worked with Belial or even Beelzebub for that matter. And we're talking Beelzebub here. And the reason for that is because of the fact over the last month, I noticed fruit flies just come out of nowhere. Now, keep in mind, it's also the season for fruit flies to appear and start mutating, if you will, or breeding. Okay, because of the dampness and the heat and all that stuff through summertime. The fact that it's been raining like crazy over the last month here in my area, my region. Okay, so that was something that I took into consideration. And first, I went through, my sinks. I ended up mixing the cocktail of baking soda, vinegar, and salt. I would recommend if you're going to do that one, make sure it's in the sink because otherwise you're going to have volcanic eruption like crazy. And it's almost like the ash cloud of a volcano when it expands because it rises up. and then goes down the side. Okay. My mother figured that one out the hard way when I first gave her that concoction to get rid of the ones at her house. So I tried this. I did it in the kitchen sink. It didn't really do anything. They just kept multiplying and multiplying. And so I did it in the bathroom. You know, I went in, did the same thing in the sink in the bathroom because I happened to have seen a couple of them come out through that sink. So I was like, okay, maybe that's the reason. But they're hanging around the fucking kitchen. They're just hanging around the kitchen in the foyer, leading out of the apartment. So it's like, okay, what the fuck? So I started scrubbing the kitchen with bleach and just alcohol wipes, you name it, just to clean up the counters. I went through all the shelves, and they just kept multiplying. I mean, they're all over the fucking ceiling. They're on the walls. They're on the trash can. They're, you know, everything. So I finally discovered about a week and a half ago a bag of rotted potatoes. Okay. Now, anytime you are besieged by, say, for an example, witchcraft or that of a demonic entity, something always goes spoiled. Now, normally it's the milk or, you know, like foods like that grow from the earth, like vegetables and potatoes. So that's a sign of a spiritual entity coming in and or a form of bewitchment, if you will. But in my case, it turned out to be Beelzebub reaching out to me. So, anyways, earlier this week, um, a friend of mine, came in and we tore the kitchen apart. I mean, I'm talking every shelf out. I'm talking everything out of the fridge, everything out of the cupboards, the pantry, everything. And I mean, we just washed down the walls. We did everything, and then we ended up taking some plastic cups, filled it about a quarter of the way up with Dawn, and then another half, about quarter to about three-fourths of the way with vinegar, and put saran wrap over it tight and made some punctures so they'd go in there. This did not work. Okay. But it did cut down on some of them. So we know it did work a little bit. So, anyways, about yesterday, it was interesting because of the fact that we tried everything, every kind of combination that you can think of that was said to get rid of fruit flies. Nothing worked. So now that the entire checklist has been gone down through, guess what? This means it is something else. So I started looking at it and I'm like, okay, what spirits deal with flies? I know Beelzebub does, but I haven't worked with him for like 3-4 years. Okay, not since I turned into to become a necromancer and on a more dedicated, serious path working, and I ended up going into my current path workings. So nothing really was working with these flies. So I had to look at the current pantheon that I've been working with over the last 4 years on a dedicated level. And it's like, okay, I don't know any spirits from this path working that deals with flies. So that leaves only one entity that I got to go to. So I drew the sigil and I went into my ritual chamber. I washed my hands, used the alcohol, swished it around the mouth, lit the candles, lit the incense, the charcoal, and I called him forth. And I said, hey, Beelzebub, I understand you're trying to come to me. Most likely, I get a feeling that you got some kind of message for me that you're trying to relay to me. I petition you to come forth. I open up my temple. I open up my home to you. What is it that you need to relay to me? I mean, are you trying to get me to work with you again or what? So after about 10-15 minutes of meditation, chanting, I utilized Joseph Nuns version of the mantra to Beelzebub. Very good. I recommend it. He's got quite a few on his channel that he utilizes, not just rock and roll bands like Slayer and a few other that I've never even heard of. And that's kind of saying something since I'm 44 years old and never heard of some of these bands that he follows and that actually endorse him. Um, so Behemoth X is his YouTube channel, and you can actually go to that. I do recommend it. He's an excellent demonologer. He's a Luciferian practitioner, and his rituals and his setups are spectacular. But here it is. So, anyways, I did this evocation. I invited him in. I sat there. I meditated, just keeping myself open. And I saw what appeared to be almost like a flag or a black background. Okay. And it was like waves were going, from left to right underneath it. You know how wind would go into a flag. Okay. That was kind of waving in the uh, the air. But this was clearly nocturnal. Okay. It was clearly a black background. The surface was shiny, which indicates water. Okay. So then I saw a circle, and as it expanded, I saw sheaths. Okay, as in the Reaper type sheath. This is what I saw. Okay, and it was spinning counterclockwise. All right. So knowing this, I decided to draw it. And I also, like I said, I had drawn the seal of Beelzebub, and I just let it be. And I ended up going grocery shopping last night, and then I ended up going out to my mother's with my ex, my son's mother. And it was interesting because when I got back, I noticed at least 95% of all those fruit flies were just gone. Okay, and what's left is normally what happens when you have a normal infestation. Okay, so that tells me that the message that was being relayed to me by this great prince, the second in command of Gehenna, the ruler of hell, second to Lucifer, the emperor himself, which I do have a good sized connection with. And it's funny because it tells me that the message was received. Okay. And he withdrew. Okay. So this is a way for you to understand how a spirit would communicate with you. But you still have to eliminate the common things that would cause it, be it rotted fruit or rotted potatoes, maybe spoiled milk, and maybe food that's gone down into a drain. You know what I'm saying? There's all kinds of possibilities of what could cause this type of infestation of fruit flies. But I had to work through everything and realize, okay, this means a spirit is coming to me saying, hey, I have a message for you. I want to talk to you. I need you to listen. This is why it kept increasing and increasing and increasing. This is when you need to open your ears, shut your mouth, and say, hey, speak. I'm willing to listen. Okay? That is what happens when a spirit contacts you. All right? Now, not every spirit would utilize flies or some form of insects. Others would utilize, like I said, the incense smoke. Some will use oneomancy. I've had dreams where I've seen literally most of the sky just turn black. And within a bubble, you just have the moon and what appears to be something gigantic behind the moon and a few stars surrounding the moon. Everything else was pitch black. I've had dreams where you're standing at a snake road, burnt vehicles and corpses in the said cars, smoke coming from the the buildings in the distance in a city, just a desert setting outside of that. I've had dreams where a spirit was sending me someplace where it turned out to be a homeless shelter for men, because I ended up down in South Tucson years ago and I spent 2 weeks on the street waiting for my apartment to come available. And it was interesting because just 3 months before, I had this one dream, oneomancy, where I was talking with this person, and he was bawling. Well, I didn't know about it until I got down to South Tucson, about 2-3 months down the road. I had forgotten about it by that time. And guess what? This homeless shelter, they had set this room up to look like a sanctuary and had this reverend come in. The guy had lost his wife to cancer. He was stressed out. He hadn't even shared any sign of emotion. He was just going through the process, if you will. Same old, like you're bored at work, going through the motions, so to speak. Now, I'm at that point with my job. But that's why I go to different stores, because it keeps things interesting. So this is one way to do this. And like I said, they will show you where to go and who to talk to. And they'll even show you things in your dreams. Now, like I said, out of those 3 dreams, only one has come to pass to this day. Not joking, just to this day. That's a decade, if not a little bit longer. Probably about 11. What's it been? I think it's been about 12 years, 13 years since I was in Tucson. So, yeah, one thing has come to pass out of 3. Doesn't mean that those other 2 won't come to pass. It just means it's not time for them to come to pass. But it also means that there's something there that you need to notify or to see that will speak to you upon your path or something that's going on in your life. So again, you've got to be observant. So when you have a dream or you have a vision while you're inside your temple, I would recommend that you have a pen and you have paper to write on, because it will come in handy. Lucid dreaming, Connor, is one way of doing it, yes. But that's only if you are trying to channel a psychic vision. It has nothing to do with when a spirit is contacting you. Unless you are utilizing it in a form of, say, sigil magic, okay, where you're doing an invocation or an evocation of a spirit, and you're watching that seal while the incense and candle flame is flickering around it. Okay. So that would happen in that form. But 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be utilizing lucid dreaming for invocation or evocations of spirits, especially when it comes to messages. So, just saying. At least in my opinion and my own experiences, I've never utilized lucid dreaming outside of opening the third eye and focusing on my third eye and the void aspects of meditation. Yeah, I figured that. So, and okay. Hey, welcome back to the channel. So, anyways, like I said, there's a lot of different ways to do this. Now, some of the practices that really work in this area happen to be the black scrying mirror. I would recommend one candle just sitting probably just behind it, so that the flame is not being shown in the mirror. You want it just behind, just enough that it illuminates a spot so you can see the mirror, but you don't want it in the way so that it literally distorts or confuses you, because you're not going to know the difference between the flame and an actual vision or connection with the spiritual realms. Now, another way is, like I said, with an incense. You can utilize anything from a spirit board to cartomancy. Cartomancy is a great way, in my opinion, to even commune with spirits because you can ask them questions and then do an open reading. And you'd be surprised at how accurate these readings are. I mean, on this channel alone, I've done, I don't know how many. And I've had people come to me, it's like, damn, that was deep. That hit me personally, and it's ironic because I looked at this person and I said, hey, the funny thing is, that was an open reading and I did it for myself. But I thought I had this feeling it may speak to others. So, and it did. It spoke to quite a few. And somebody's hitting my phone up like crazy over there. So, that's one way of doing it. Now, personally, I would recommend utilizing some form of a gate. If you're going by the Necromyicon, you have three symbols that go toe to toe, and these symbols normally reside for the realm that you're trying to contact, the being that you're trying to contact, and the realm that we are in. So you have three different seals that represent three different things. These things will go in hand. And again, this goes back to sigil magic. Very, very good stuff. Now, one of the other things that I would recommend, like I said, is you could even use dowsing rods. You can use a pendulum. Pendulums are pretty good, in my opinion, because it's just simplistic things, yes or no, and maybe. Okay? You can utilize a spirit board, a talking board, a Ouija board, but they have so much more to do that they can go through, say, for an example, not just yes, maybe, and no, but they could spell things out for you. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Most people really don't have that kind of time to sit there and go, all right, I'm going to spend an hour or two here. I'm going to spend 3 hours here and try to commune with this spirit. The best way to do it is to take something that would belong to them, like, say, let's go with a personal sigil, a seal, such as that of Beelzebub. Now, because Beelzebub came to me, I drew his seal, then I traced over it with a permanent marker. Okay. And the reason for that is to make it more visible during the ritual. Okay. And then, like I said, I also drew this in marker. Okay. And I put them side by side. And the reason for that is because, number one, you have that visual stimuli. The visual stimuli allows you to focus on the spirit, but also the message, kind of like saying, hey, you gave this to me. What is it? Can you further this? Now, with a pendulum, you can sit there and hold it in front of you and ask questions. And you can you can purposely say, hey, over here is yes, over here is no, and dead center is maybe. Okay. Kind of like that magic 8 ball that we used to have as kids. I don't know if the 90s kids, the 2000 kids, this modern era actually played with those, but I loved them. I love those little 8 balls, those ones where you have to ask questions, shake it up, and then it goes, yes, ask again later. I fucking love them. And being a warlock, getting into divination and void workings and all that stuff, this is a tool that is very interesting because you can ask the questions and it will either go left or right or just sit there and spin. I've actually had it sit there and spin, and it's like, oh, come on. I'm asking, personally, is it, and then I'd go, okay, is it, because I already have the answer, and it'll either go left or right. And it's really simplistic when you use a pendulum. But dowsing rods are something that's much more interesting as well because you sit there and hold them, and the very tips of them are magnetic, if you will. But here's the thing, they go inward or they'll go outward. And you have to sit there once you ask that question and put them back to where they're supposed to be. Ask again, and they'll either go out or in. So again, you're asking questions to a spirit and or an entity such as a jinn, a demon, or an angelic being, or even an ancestral lineage such as in voodoo. Okay, you'll be dealing with your ancestors. So or, there's a lot of things. As a necromancer, you work with a number of spirits. So you can work with the dead as well. So I mean, you get to where the point where you can utilize their clothes to connect to them, to call them forth. You got all kinds of tools that you can use to communicate with them. But when it comes to demons, such as fallen angels who turn demon, such as Beelzebub, they don't need these tools to communicate with you. All you need to do is resonate with them, align with them, open yourself up to them and say, hey, I understand you got a message for me. Let's talk. I'm willing to listen. They'll either talk to you or they'll show it to you. Plain and simple. But that is how you know that they're trying to relay a message to you. You don't have to make it too complicated. Just look at what's going on, such as fruit flies. Okay. Cut down on what's causing it. Pull out that checklist and go from a scientific perspective and go, okay, that's not working. This ain't working. That's not working. All right. Let's try an evocation. Let's summon the spirit and go, hey, what's going on? That's all you got to do. It's nothing too extravagant. It's nothing too heinous. It's just quick, simple checklist. Plain and simple. All right. So I want to thank Connor Maynard for jumping on here with me. I want to thank LK for jumping on here with me. Came on, said what I want to do, what I wanted to. And I'll be offline the next few days because I got to go back to work tomorrow. Early mornings. They really suck. I can only imagine what the store's been like without me. Oh, don't even get me started on that. I'm kind of horrified to even think about what's going on in there. So when I get there at 4 a.m. tomorrow and then 3 a.m. the next 2 days. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. So we'll see. But yeah, I will be offline for a couple of days. I will be checking my messages. So I will be able to reply, and my mustache is bugging my nose. I really hate that. I got to trim it a little bit more. But yeah, so if you like what you hear, you like the material being put forth, feel free to hit that notification button. Hit the subscribe button so you won't miss the next one. You'll be notified when the next time I come on. Feel free to reach out and ask questions. I've got a video coming up probably next week sometime on theory and practice. So because that was something that was actually put forth a few times by some of my followers, some of my fans, if you will, and those that are actually seeking to learn. So it kind of works out great. All right. So like I said, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. It's up to you. No one's pulling your leg or twisting your arm. Outside of that, back up what you preach with numerous sources. Always make yourself available to the public because you are responsible for the things that you say and do. All right. Have a good one. And until next time, I'm out.